Hi everyone! Today we're going to be making a needle-felted fox sculpture. I'm going to be using a diagram that I created, which is in my shop below. Starting with the body, take some white wool and wrap it into a tight tube. The tighter you roll it, the easier it'll be to felt later. Needle the ends of the fibers in place so it stays together. Look at the tube and choose the smaller end to be the neck and the larger end to be the haunches. You're going for a shape similar to a comma. Place the tube on the board and begin to shape it. You can felt at different angles and smush the tube into the right shape while needle felting it so it stays more or less in that shape. Round out the haunches by felting at different angles evenly over the whole area. Point the neck by felting more aggressively towards the point, but never on the point. Compare the body to the diagram. If it's too small, add more wool. If it's too big, compress it more. Don't worry, it doesn't have to be exact. Next, make the head. Start by rolling a small tube, then felting it in place. Next, roll up the tube into a ball, then felt it in place again. It will still be a bit square at this point, so spend some time felting it to round it out. It will end up being smaller than you think it should be. Next, make the muzzle. You're going to make one end pointed and leave the other end fuzzy. To accomplish this, I roll the muzzle around the end of my thumb. That way, it points one end and leaves the other bigger. Felt the ends of the fibers in place, and start to shape the muzzle more by needling it about a third to a half of the way down the muzzle. Be careful not to felt the point very much, or it may become too blunt. Next, attach the muzzle to the head. Fluff out the fibers and wrap them around the ball to connect them. Needle in place. Compare the head to the diagram. In this case, I made it slightly too big, so I'm going to take some time shrinking it. This will also give me a chance to refine the shape more. Compare the head to the body and see if it's proportional. Next, attach the body to the head by placing the neck on the head and felting around the edge. Make sure to felt from different angles, and then from the head to the body and the body to the head. Next, take a small piece of wool and needle the end in place somewhere on the neck. Then wrap it around the connection like a scarf to further attach the head to the body. Make sure it's nice and smooth and goes over the whole connection. Make sure to redefine the neck if needed. Compare to the diagram and adjust as needed by compressing wool or adding wool to areas that need it. For my sculpture, I find the back isn't rounded enough, so I'm going to make a packet of wool and felt it on the back. I'm also going to bulk out the front of the haunch and make it more defined. It's a bit bigger than the diagram, but I'm happy with it. Next, you're going to cover your sculpture with reddish-brown wool. It's very important to pay attention to the direction of the fibers and lay them out in a thin, flat layer. I lay the fibers over the sculpture and hold them taut with one hand while felting evenly over them with the other. Then I pull the ends taut around the sculpture and felt them in place. The most important thing is that the fibers are smooth. Let there be some patchy places on the first layer. You can come back and cover those with smaller pieces of wool later. Next, add some bulk to the cheek. Make a shape similar to the muzzle, but out of reddish wool. To do this, wrap a piece of wool around your thumb to create a cone shape. Then, attach it to the side of the head on the cheek that's facing upwards. The other cheek is lying on the ground, so you only need to make one of these. Keep adding reddish fibers until all of the white is covered, although you don't need to worry about the tip of the nose or under the chin. Next, make the tail. Take some white wool and lay the fibers out on the board. Felt them a bit, then fold over the edges to create a tube. Fold over one end carefully to be the white tail tip. Next, take some reddish-brown fibers and get a small clump with the fibers all going in the same direction. Then, wrap them around the tail like a coat and needle felt them in place. Compare the tail to the diagram and adjust if necessary by felting it more to shrink it or adding more wool to make it bigger. Again, a reminder, it doesn't have to be exact. If you like how it looks with your sculpture, go for it. I decided the tail was a bit too big, so I shrunk it a bit. Next, place the tail on your fox sculpture and see how it'll look. Start by attaching the tip of it, then follow it along and attach the whole thing. there will likely be some white wool at the base to cover up. Next, make the white face markings. Take 2 small pieces of wool for the white cheeks. Felt them on the mat, then pull them off and flip them over. Fold over one side a tiny bit for the bottom part of the cheek. It should also be a bit curved. Now you can start attaching them to the fox face. Start by attaching them in the front, right under where the nose will be, and attach it around the face. Fold over any excess at the end. It's even better if there is extra wool at the end, so it will bulk out the edge of the cheek even more. Next, take a small amount of white wool and felt it on the board. This is going to be the bottom jaw/chin. Felt the end of it to curve it, then attach it to the sculpture. Next, make the nose. Take a small piece of black wool and roll it in between your thumb and forefinger. Gently felt it on the face, taking care to keep shaping it as you're felting it on. You can do this by felting at different angles to get it into a triangle shape. I decided mine was too indented, so I added some more black wool to puff it out more. Then I added a small amount of reddish wool on the bridge of the nose. Next, add some black lining to the mouth. Take a very thin piece of black wool and felt it down each side of the mouth. Add another tiny piece of black wool at the corner of the mouth. Next, felt the ears. Take a piece of black wool and place it on the felting mat. Felt 2 edges of the triangle on it, then fold over the sides to the felted line. Felt it a bit on the mat, then take it off and felt it in the air. You should be wearing finger guards for this, as it's very easy to poke your fingers. You want to felt in between your fingers and avoid poking them as much as possible, even if you are wearing guards. Next, attach the ears. Start by attaching them on the edge towards the middle, then attach the edge towards the cheek. At first they will be too big, and you will need to shrink them a bit as you're attaching them and refining them where you want them to be. Remember that one of them is going to be more squashed, as your fox is lying with its head sideways on the ground. Take a small piece of orange wool and lay it between the ears if your ears have gotten too close together like mine have. Next, fill the ears with white wool. Simply take a small amount of white wool and felt it into the center of the ear. Try to felt downward so you don't get white fibers poking out the back of the ear. Next, define where you want the eyes to be. Then take a small amount of reddish wool and roll it between your fingers to make an eyelid. Repeat 4 times, then attach to the top and bottom of each eye. Take a very small thin piece of black wool to make the shadow of the sleeping eye. Start by attaching it in the center corner, then make an angle and felt it between the eyelids. And that's it. You're all done. Every time I make a sleeping fox, it turns out a little bit different. Sometimes I put the tail under the head, or I point the ears in different directions. I also like experimenting with different kinds of reddish-brown wool. It gives each fox some character and personality.